So Steve, going to start off with the PSR merry-go-round. What do you know about this carousel?
I know that there are a lot of clubs trying to sell young talent for big profits just before this 30th window, all to each other at rather inflated prices as well. So the Everton, Villa, a bang at it. It looks like Newcastle are getting involved, Nottingham Forest. What I would say, it goes to show the PSR stuff is flawed. It's a flawed system, and I do not blame these clubs one little bit for finding a loophole in the system to exploit it and stopping themselves getting punished. So Lewis Dobbin going for like what, £10 million odd, and then Everton buying midfield I don't even know from Aston Villa, and Minter rather is going from Newcastle. All this kind of stuff. Obviously the Calvert-Lewin stuff was involved, and now it looks like that's off. It's just this is what unfortunately footy's become, because of they've had to try and reel in the state ownership of football and the unlimited spends and all this kind of stuff. By allowing that amount of money to be imported into footy, they've had to, I don't know what the word is, shit out these rules as fast as they can. And then these clubs who are multi-million pound companies have found the best accountants and the best lawyers and the best ways around it, and they've all found a loophole, and that's all there is. Like Aston Villa I'd be shocked if Aston Villa were desperate to sign Dobbin. I just don't believe that was the case. You know, I just don't, and then vice versa. All these lads, and
it's to a doubter then.
Yeah, and it's a shame for these guys that they're effectively just pawns in the system that are just being used. They'll get well compensated, I'm sure they will, and you know the young players, so the profit goes straight on, and all that kind of stuff. It's just sad. It's an indictment of what footy is a little bit.
It is. You're absolutely spot on. So for anybody who doesn't know what it is, essentially you can get rid of someone for 10 million quid to a football club. You can buy one of their players for 10 million quid. You can throw 10 million quid straight into your accounts before June the 30th for last year, which will help obviously with your PSR and getting that down, especially the clubs who are in trouble. And you can amortise the £10 million over 5 years. You can also do it monthly, so only 1 month's worth of the £2 million is actually going into last year's accounts. So basically the full 10 million is going to be spread over 5 years, but less than a month. It's ridiculous. It's an absolute loophole, as you say, Steve. What I wanted to talk about more than anything about this is the business of football, because I think this stuff's really interesting. Dan, is quick fire question first of all: is football a business?
Yes.
Right. We don't like the fact that football's a business. Football's a business.
Yeah.
PSR is a ceiling for how much you're allowed to lose. If football's a business, why are teams trying to lose the most amount of money that you're allowed?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know the answer to that one. Because you hope you do Aston Villa, just don't win it all back
and get something.
Yeah, win something and get back like one Newcastle. Like that's what they're trying to do.
But there's not going to be many teams that do that.
No, but you tell them
there can't be many teams that do it. But so shouldn't the clubs like Everton and Aston, well, maybe not Aston Villa, football clubs like Everton, you would think losing money would be a bad thing because football's a business. We've just said,
but also for billionaires, not asked. It's like Michelle or whoever.
It's not a business then if they're not asked about losing money.
But some aren't and some are. Like Sheikh Mansour isn't bothered about what if that's a PR stunt. That's a vanity project. Roman Abramovich, Chelsea was his vanity project. Other people.
So some football clubs are businesses and some aren't.
Yeah, and that's how you can tell by how they run.
Right.
Our club FSG are running Liverpool to make money, and eventually they're a hedge fund. That's what they are. Other places are different, and like the Saudis haven't bought Newcastle to make money. Like they don't need no more money. They've got infinite amounts of money. They've got too much money. Like it's all relative. What this is,
it goes back to the point originally, is that these rules were rushed out because they're to stop teams going out of business, but it's actually hindering a lot of the teams at the top of the league, which I think we all know.
Yeah. And it's to stop your owner just pumping loads of money into it and then getting you up there, and then if he fucks, like what happened to Chelsea, if he gets off if something found dodgy about him and it's all a bit of a thing, it's just it's too late. The horse has bolted. The authorities allowed in state ownership of football clubs, unlimited wealth into football, and this is the result of it. They've had to shit out these rules, and Newcastle and Everton and Villa fans, they'll all go, why can't we spend whatever? Why can't our owner do what Manchester City's owner did? Why can't we do what Abramovich did? And I understand their frustrations because they've seen other teams do it. And one of the limitations of profits and sustainability or financial fair play is that there is a gap between, because it's based on what you earn and what you're. Everton are never going to be able to earn what Man United are now because Man United are already earning it. They've started at a different playing field. You know what I mean? It's like running 100 metres, but Man United are 70 metres down there already. You're just never going to catch them. That's the problem. So I understand why these teams and these clubs are doing everything they can to try and circumnavigate it. Unfortunately, it's very unsavoury, and these are footballers, these are people, and they're just being used as, like you said, well, you're worth 10 million and you're worth 10 million, we'll swap you go into that fund, and then your career, you go to Everton and you maybe play or maybe you don't, but we can spread your cost over 5 years like an interest loan, and it's just miserable. But okay, you can't fix it. It is what it is now. This money's here to stay, and they are shitting themselves about it.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it, Dan? Because as Steve says, there's people at the heart of this, and they are just being fucking used. Yeah, penny for the four to them players, because they must know. Like, they can't be stupid. They must know exactly what they're being shifted on for, and you can sell them all the dreams that you like. If you want to buy in clubs, Everton and Aston Villa, in this example, you can say, oh no, we want to bring you in because we see this for your future, we have this pathway. Yeah, exactly. And listen, ultimately, you know, who knows, one of them may well go on to have a good career at then now respective clubs, but there's no hiding from it. It is exactly what we've just said there. It's to circumnavigate these PSR rules that are coming down the line, and the clubs involved tell you all you need to know about that. I think even Chelsea fall into this category. They're about to buy that Amari Kellyman from Aston Villa, completely unknown academy kid, £19 million. Never kicked the ball in anger in his life at first team level. Like, it's frightening, it's crazy. So it's not a good look. I don't blame them whatsoever for doing it, by the way, because they've been put in this predicament, if you like, by the shut-out rules, and I completely agree with that. They haven't been thought about properly. Clearly, there's a loophole in them. It's being exploited right now, and that's been the case, generally speaking. You mentioned amortisation there. You know, Chelsea were getting around that for a while until that particular loophole got shut down as well around contracts. So, yeah, the Premier League haven't done themselves any favours. They've allowed this to become somewhat of a laughingstock, really, and I can't blame the clubs for exploiting it, really.
I suppose we're NFL fans, Chloe's the same, like, they have like salary caps, and they hire people to find ways of moving money.
Yeah, so they might renew your contract, so they push more money next season rather than this year.
That's what's going to happen. The more rules you implement, the messier it can become, because there's always a way around something. It's the same as, like, you know, you get your accountant to do your taxes for you, and he says, well, that one goes into that year. It always happens with money, and there's too much of it, and people are too clever. There was always going to be something that teams did to exploit these rules. Like I say, we watch it in the NFL where they'll renegotiate a contract and give them a signing bonus rather than another thing, and it changes all of these formulas and stuff. It's just like we've got to a point now where footy's on a spreadsheet. And I understand it, Chris, because the other option was, like I say, it's a wild west, and it's a free for all. And listen, Newcastle and Chelsea and Everton and Villa and City, they would love that. We wouldn't, it wouldn't. But then if we had a billionaire, gazillionaire owner, maybe it would. It's just like the rules now are implemented at a point where too many teams are already ahead of those rules, and everyone's playing catch up. And that's my point. By allowing City and PSG and all these guys in, everyone else is going, well, why can't we do that? Well, we put rules in place now, but also City now can buy the best players already because their brand is big enough. Man United's brand is big enough, and Everton and Newcastle are going, well, in order for us to go and buy, you know, for example, Bruno Guimaraes or all the signings Newcastle made last season, this is what happens at the end of it. They've got to find a way around it, and they've done it now. And all these, like again, like I go back to Dobbin or Kelly, they're just like, how do they feel? How much involvement do they get? What are they getting from it?
Chelsea will be made up. They're going to sign Amari Kellerman for 19 million quid. Aston Villa bought him for 600,000 and he played 35 Premier League minutes, Chloe. So I think clearly Chelsea have wanted him for a long time.
Yeah, and clearly, you know, he is worth that 19 million for those 35 minutes. He might be a little bit more expensive than Arthur's loan deal, where he spent 13 minutes on a pitch for Liverpool. Yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous. And like we've said there, I mean, Lewis Dobbin might be happy to leave Everton. I don't know, but he's got Diaby and he's got Bailey there to try and get in front of. I really doubt that's going to happen, to be perfectly honest. But it depends. We know a lot of footballers are only in it for the money. There is some footballers who are determined and want to make something out of their career, but there's also other footballers who, you know, are happy to sign for a football club and just sit there and earn the money, and rightfully so. You do you.
They'll all get sold.
Yeah.
That's what happens. They'll get sold for like £5 million or
somebody will play.
This is the problem with all of this is they're all in on it for a start, and I get the amortization of the fee and yada yada yada, but you're fucking up like next year's and the years after, and the year after that, and the year after that, because it's all just kicking it down the curb.
That's
rather than sort your fucking money out and do it properly.
No, you're right. Yeah,
it's fucking wild.
But they've already done it. They've already spent the money. So what I'm saying is, if they hadn't got their houses in order by next week, they will be at risk of further points deductions.
No, I get it. So all they're doing is every season kicking it down.
Yeah,
the line.
will. And all they're saying is that 19 million quid that we're just paying for. Listen, the lad's not going to play. That's better than losing 5 points. You know that they bought.
Wouldn't you rather your football club be run fucking properly? Yeah,
and you're right, but not everyone cares about that. They're thinking the only way we can win is to spend, and then we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. And there's a lot of crossing bridges when we get to it.
If you were right in the PSR stuff again now, Dan, with what we've known from the last few years, how would you shape the initial thought? Like, what's it for?
Oh, it's for what Steve kind of referenced earlier on. It can't be the Wild West. You know, your Man City's and Newcastle's will can't be allowed to spend whatever they like on footballers, because then it just becomes more farcical than it is now, in my opinion. The actual arrival, the actual implementation of the rules was the right thing to do. The lettering and the actual rules themselves clearly aren't fit for purpose, as I mentioned, because they have so many loopholes, and they perhaps are they a little bit unfair on some of the teams. Maybe I would say, because the glass ceiling is exactly that. It does exist. It is a glass ceiling, but if you had to rewrite it and start again,
I think obviously you don't want teams going out of business.
You can't have that.
That's probably the number one thing.
But when you speak to Everton fans about that, they kind of laugh off the fact that's even a possibility, forgetting your Portsmouth, your QPRs of this world in years gone by, whereby they went to the very brink of not being existing anymore. And Man City, and I guess the problem there is you're saying, well, if your owner have ever walked away, what do you do then? But they just say, well, you won't walk away. So it's a difficult one, it really is, and they don't live in that world, and we haven't seen it for so long now. It's hard to imagine that. I suppose Chelsea was the closest we came with the Abramovich stuff, but I don't know.
There's always someone to buy it.
It would, like, from my point of view, and I've said this loads over the years, I like competition. I think competition should be the heart of what football is. And therefore, that leads me probably more towards, Chloe, a wage cap or a spending cap of some for everybody that's
based
exactly
on what?
The same.
Just a figure?
Just pick a fucking figure. If it's smaller than the budget of the teams out there now, you've got this many years to comply. And if it's bigger than yours, you've got the chance to get up there if you wanted to.
Do you think the lower clubs, you Evertons of this world, would be happy with that, though?
No, we wouldn't be happy with it, the players. That's what you wouldn't happen. You wouldn't get buying. That's what it is. The PFA and all the players go, why are you limiting how much I'm allowed to earn? It wouldn't happen.
But what else can you do?
Nothing, that's the point.
I think based on commercial revenue is the right path, personally. I honestly believe that is the right way to go about it. Genuinely. Because
I don't think it really solves anything, the commercial revenue, personally.
But there has to be meritocracy in football. That exists for a reason. Like, in my opinion.
You're right, but then also, that only works, Dan. But now, everyone's got... Like, so those before these rules were in place, and Liverpool grew their commercial, and Man United grew their commercial, and they're already at there now. These other clubs are saying, we want to do that, and we're trying to do it. But how can we do it if we're shit? So let us spend the money so that we get good. Like, well, Man City's the example, and I use that term very loosely with the commercials, I understand. But
yeah.
Let us spend the money, let us be good, and then when we're good, we'll grow our commercials. That's their argument, and that's their point. It's just, I don't know the answer, it's a mess.